Good morning. Am I looking pretty? Oh, I've got 16 minutes on here. Let's see what I can do in 15 minutes. As the months passed, the love grew. I did not want to be romantic because my experience with romance had always created false foundations, which vanished as the years went by. It took time before I told her of my love, and when I asked Susan to marry me, it sounded like I was giving her a history lesson of all the mistakes I hoped not to repeat again. She was never sure where my head was because I still harbored such guilt. No matter how hard I tried, the vows I had taken and the commitments I had made would not let me move forward without reminding me of my failures. Trying to justify my life to myself became a stumbling block, and time would have to pass before my confidence would return. As the summer waned and the work dwindled, we faced a few challenges together. Oh, look at my hair. It's all over the place. Susan was impressed with my concern as a father, and I thought I had been a good provider despite my feeling to the contrary. As an only child, Curtis, her son, had been the center of her life, and he had learned the art of manipulation well with the help of his grandmother. She was always there to give him anything he wanted. Now his wanting to be the center of attention became a problem. Curtis had never experienced the authority, discipline, or direction of a father, nor did he know where he stood with me. The same was true with Susan's mother, who was used to getting her way with Curtis. Since she had helped raise him, since she had a tendency of pulling the rug right out from underneath Susan by undermining her authority in Curtis's life. I knew that this would mean trouble for our future, so I took measures to correct the problem. Susan stepped aside, allowing me to rearrange the relationships, another definite sign of her support for me. As 12-year-olds, at 12 years old, Curtis was a bundle of energy. He had a very likable personality, but could rarely sit still, either at school or at home. My two boys fell in love with him. When the three of them were together, Susan and I had our work cut out for us. The problem that needed to be addressed was how his grandma's influence would continue. She was used to being the other parent, and Susan did not have enough fight in her to ward off her mother's influence. This changed when she began to look for me for support. One day after her mother bought Curtis a gift, which Susan had asked her not to give him, a fight ensued. Susan stood up to her mother, who in turn blew up at her. Curtis did not understand this tug of war. Reluctantly, he let his mother give the gift back. Susan asked her mother to respect her boundaries, and with my support, Mother did so, but she wasn't too happy. This event helped set our boundaries as a family. Curtis witnessed his mother's resolve and my leadership, which began to have a profound effect on his behavior. Also, Susan's mother began to respect her daughter's role as a mother and started to stay out of Susan's internal family affairs, but she internalized everything and stayed angry at moi. Many will come in his name. Here is the Christ, and there is the Christ. Where the Christ is the Christ. For Christ's sakes. During the time I was dating Susan, Jackie was going out with a man she had met in church. He seemed very aggressive, and she told me how certain he was that God had sent him into her life. I suggested that she take it slowly because of her initial feeling, her intuition telling her to be cautious, which she didn't always listen to. I suggest that certainty about God for other people's lives other than yourself is often a sure sign of trouble. She seemed to listen, but within a few months of their first date, she was pregnant. She was told that if she gets on top, she can't get pregnant. He had convinced her that he could no longer have children, so she had taken no precautions. She wouldn't have taken precautions anyhow. The news of Jackie's pregnancy was shocking, but then I thought of the freedom it would give me from feeling responsible for her. A sense of getting off the guilt hook soon took hold of my life. After all, this was beyond my control, and if I were to accept my own immoral behavior, I would also have to accept that I was not responsible for every misdeed that came down the pike. In other words, I needed to get away from my chain reaction thinking. I was not the chief pin domino causing everything to fall down around us. I needed to believe that not every event was my fault and that my transgressions weren't the sole cause. There was a bowling ball involved in this process, and I was slowly learning that I did not start this ball rolling. I was just in a process, in a river taking its course before sharing with me its secrets, the secrets of the river. I did not realize that I could not isolate myself from events that would involve my children. Jim would soon become Jackie's husband and one of the guardians of my children. I would not understand the consequences involved in this authority shift until later, and there would be very little cooperation to help with this transition. Jim entered Jackie's life as a man, claiming to be appointed by God, with very little regard for me and a determination that he would lead this abandoned family into the promised land, which is taking place today with Mr. Rick Wilson, that really is self-righteous. 51 years working for the same labor company printing outfit. Jackie stood faithfully behind him. And when arguments began over money, Jim was there to rescue her as a damsel in distress. He faced one big problem, though, and that was Jessica, who had voiced her opposition to this aggressive parenting. He was not her father, and she was not about to show him the respect he demanded, especially when she witnessed his rude behavior towards me. When Jim first arrived on the scene, he decided to involve himself in a fight between Jackie and Jessica. In a very aggressive manner, he demanded that Jessica obey her mother. He had only been dating Jackie for 2 weeks when this happened. Jessica questioned by what right he had to tell her what to do. Jim responded that she would need to get used to it because he was going to be around for a long time. This threat unnerved her. And when Jim began to act like her father without acknowledging my existence, this infuriated her. It was as if Jackie's passive nature had allowed a very aggressive bully into her life. Jim treated me with no respect. Never did he look at me as a parent involved in my children's lives. He seemed to show contempt for me, as if I'd had my chance as a father and had blown it as an adulterer. Now he was there to take over. Jackie never attempted to help change this scenario, so the tension began from this point on. Thank God my children, especially Jessica, never let Jim supplant me in my role as a father. Time would confirm this truth. Suffer the little children to come unto me. But wisdom is justified by her children. New battles were beginning to emerge as 1994 approached, and I would begin to work with Susan cleaning houses as karaoke began to fade. I was learning to work as a wedding disc jockey. The picture was bleak. Oh, did I skip No, I skipped an entire page. Whoop. But the work was sporadic. We had plans for marriage, but without a real job, my self-esteem, which I derived from being the provider, was at an all-time low. I did not want to pick a wedding date until that was settled. Often it is stated that children suffer the most in divorce, and I would agree. Parents do not consider each other's vital importance to the kids, and respect is often disregarded. As parents, we try to consider our children, but hidden agenda would often appear when decisions had to be made. Then all protocols seemed to disappear. In our case, the custodial parent dominated. As I was not the custodial parent, often I had to yield to decisions made on behalf of my children. I very much resented this. Frequently, I was reminded that I had released my parental rights. It was just another form of control that I had to deal with, knowing that someday this would come to an end when the kids were older. Oh, it came to an end. Now the children know more than I do, and they've created another major problem because they're right and I'm wrong. As domestic problems with Jackie escalated and financial problems lurked again, I found myself not wanting to deal with life at all. I just sort of put my thumb in the dike and hoped everything would go away. Susan wondered if we were ever going to marry. She needed more, and I had to face this as time pressed me for an answer. I was beginning to believe that my life was not worth a whole hell of a lot. Because of her intense dislike for Jim, Jessica wanted to move in with me. I felt that having my teenage daughter living with me was as much as I could handle. Marriage would have to wait. Maybe I shouldn't have gotten married. One night, as we talked about our future together, I just presented the ugly picture as I saw it. I had failed at 2 marriages, the second being a Christian one. I had no money and no job. The picture was bleak. And I did not have much energy to change anything. There was not much point in getting married with a track record like mine. This just devastated her, and Susan began to cry. She thought she was being rejected. I tried to assure her that it was my problem, when suddenly it occurred to me what was wrong. If Susan would share her business with me, I could have something to build on, and we could move forward with our plans. I presented this possibility to her, and with a few days to think about it, she agreed to give it a go. Our plans for the marriage took shape in the spring of 1994. Jessica lived with me at the time as things were getting ugly with Jackie. I had refused to pay her child support since I had subsidized her so much over the years. Now that she was married and somewhat independent, I thought it would be fair to let these things equalize and begin paying her again when the accounting had balanced. She was infuriated with her mother joining in. Oh, Mary. My character was attacked. With me in the doghouse as the bad guy, Jim was elevated to the man of the hour by Jackie's family. All this assassination of character took place in the presence of my children, who could now report to me about fighting they had never really understood. Trying to continue this negative assault was very disconcerting. It was as if all of my past behavior was being brought out at this time. There was a time when Jackie's mother told Jessica that her father's love was not the same as her mother's love toward her. This confusing message confirmed to me that sides were being taken. Sides. Sides. Please note, sides. Sides were being taken, and Jim was taking every advantage of this. My children were not buying it, though, and it only served to create confusion. Time alone would solve these disputes as the truth continued to surface. One more page before I run out of space. Then Melchizedek brought out bread and wine, making melody in your heart unto the Lord. In preparation for the wedding, we searched for someone to marry us. I was determined not to repeat the religious ceremony that marked my vows with Jackie, or create anything that would cause me to say something I would not live up to. I had learned the hard way about making oaths and knew firsthand what Jesus meant when he said not to swear by anything, either by heaven or on earth. He simply said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. He said that anything more than that was from the evil one. So, with that in mind, I wanted to make sure that simplicity would mark our commitment to one another. We approached the church at first, but soon found the pastor giving us some rules to follow. We immediately felt restricted, so we asked our photographer if he knew of anyone who performed marriages. He handed me a card that he had stuffed away, and I called the number, leaving a message. A man returned my call, explaining that he was substituting for his friend and that he was more than able to perform the wedding. We talked briefly, but I never got specific about my beliefs or concerns. It must have been because he was willing to serve us and be of help that made me trust his judgment, even though we had only spoken on the telephone and never met face to face. The day of the wedding arrived with just a few glitches. Susan's mother tried to involve herself in choosing the guest list, and she voiced her opposition to a cousin she did not like. This is page 97. This is page 98. Bye bye. Talk to you all later. Yee.